Welcome back to another edition of Ask Mike. Now, before we get into today's questions, we have something big coming up, AMSA 26. And we're going to go right to the conversation and let Mike tell us all about it.
Mike Kovary, come on up here.
All right, Mike. So AMSA 26, we've got that coming up soon. And for those who haven't been to this event or heard of this event, can you tell us a little bit about it, how it started and where we're going this year?
Yeah, I mean, we started out with an annual event, and we've got to be up to our about 10th one of these, 9th, 10th one of these. And it initially started in just a conference room in a hotel, and it's kind of built itself out from there. And the feedback has been phenomenal. We've really got some really named players from the mortgage side who've come into it. Directors on the NBA board of governors, and national players have shown up to this. I think last year we had 8 CEOs show up to our event from various wholesale companies. The whole precipice of AMSA was, what can we do to give back to not only the employees of AMS Mortgage who work hard all year long, but also to give back to the community. So it started as a rah-rah session, and then it turned into an educational session, an educational day of team building and just the forefront of vendors and in the marketplace. We're talking like appraisal management companies, credit vendors, title companies, various wholesale lenders. A couple of years ago, we opened it up to about 30 wholesale lenders, and it became a mini little convention that people could go to and get education from. And it's really turned out to be something quite unique. This year, we've decided to expand it and actually bring in all of the facets of real estate. So you're now talking about realtors, title companies, credit vendors, appraisal management companies, real estate attorneys. And we're really looking to pull the curtain back for every mortgage real estate professional so that they can understand what everybody does in the transaction. I think we lost that in our industry. I think we actually got to a point in our industry where the mortgage person's job had nothing to do with the realtor's job, had nothing to do with the attorney or the title company's job. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. We all work together, and we have to work together in order for the transaction to be successful. So from our standpoint, we're in a situation where we're saying to ourselves, let's pull this curtain back and let's show everybody how the ideal mortgage loan process needs to work. And some people are going to really get it. Some people aren't going to get it. But I think we owe it to the industry and the marketplace to at least educate on some of the old school methods that if integrated with modern technology, if you will, we can actually make 2027 a phenomenal year. And that's the goal of this year's AMSA event. So this year, all realtors are welcome. We'll have about 100 mortgage professionals. We're looking to have about 150 realtors, maybe a little bit more. We've got 6 panels, guest speakers, motivational speakers. You're trying to figure out if this industry is for you, if you're trying to figure out how to grow your business. This is the event you want to be at, because you're going to have all of the tools in one spot and all of the networking opportunities in one spot, so that you in turn can decide, hey, this is something that I don't want to do part-time. I want to do this full-time because I can make a living doing this. And a lot of people have. I mean, I'm at 38 years now. So, I mean, it's been a long time in this industry, and I've got more time left.
Well, you put a lot of people I work with to shame sometimes. So I think we all should have that mentality. So do we have a time and a place picked out for this yet, or?
Yeah, October 7th, the Delta Hotel in Woodbridge, New Jersey. It's going to be it's an all-day event. It's 9:00. Your speaking engagements are from 9 to about 3:30. Starting at about 3:30 to 5 o'clock, there's a networking time. We're networking cocktail party, if you will, where we'll have some food and some beverage, and I think there's even going to be some giveaways so that people can come and socialize with one another. Because I think one of the things that we forget in this industry, and we forget as people, is that we are supposed to be social by nature.
Right.
Not just social media. We're supposed to be social. We're supposed to talk to each other. That's what we're on this planet for. And many of us forget that. And if we forget that while we're in sales, that's a huge mistake. You can't forget that our part of our job is to actually talk to people. And we can actually differ in opinion. You know, we don't all have to agree with each other. That's another phenomenal thing. If you differ in opinion, you'll actually learn. You know, you'll learn something. You know, so let's differ. You know, and maybe
Yeah.
we can actually put something to.
Yeah, I think that is very important. I think in a post-COVID world, a lot of salespeople, myself included, forgot that. I used to be very extroverted, and now I'm just like, oh, I got to go outside. And I think it's pushing yourself to, get back into that and connect with people, because technology, as great as it can be, kind of makes us drift apart sometimes and
It
separates us.
does.
So
It does. We can hide behind computer screens and text messages all day long. I mean, one of the things that I tell people from day one is one of the things that I tell people from day one is if you're going to reach out to me, the last thing you should do is text me. The first thing you should do is call me. And there's a reason. It's because we're supposed to be so. We weren't put on this planet to be cocoons, and just live in that little cocoon. And you're over here and I'm over there, and I'm going to send you a text message. You're going to send it back to me. I might misinterpret your text message, which happens so many times. So the best way to get me is call me. I tell everybody that, and I pick up the phone. That's what I do. If the call comes up, I pick up the phone, and those are some of the things that I my daily practice is to be on the phone almost all day long.
yeah. So
I want to hear voice, Joe. I want to hear voice.
yeah. Yeah, I think tonality is very important too, because like you said, people can miss something in text messaging and miss something in an email. Like if I feel like I've ever miscommunicated in any angle of my life, the first thing I'm always going to do, if I can't call them right away, I'm going to drop a voice message, because they need to hear especially somebody who jokes a lot like me. Sometimes it doesn't land correctly. So
Tone doesn't go very well through text or email. It gets misinterpreted quite a bit. And it's a great medium if you need to say, "Hey Joe, can you send me X, whatever X is? Can you send me, a pay stub? Can you send me, that? Make sure you upload your pay stub to the portal." Those are great text messages because the consumer knows what you're looking for immediately. But if you start trying to describe everything that's needed on a particular file via text message, you're dealing with someone who doesn't do this for a living, doesn't know the jargon, and it's a problem. And there's a lot of miscommunication, and people then get frustrated when there's miscommunication. And once they get frustrated, you know what, even if you do a great job for that consumer, you're now in a situation where that consumer doesn't believe you did a great job because they got frustrated.
yeah.
So it's a bad situation. I think that's a bad situation when you're talking and dealing with a consumer, or if the conversation goes beyond, "I need this," or "Can you send me that?" or "I will call you right back." If there's anything other than that, these people who write War and Peace novels on text messages, I'm going to tell you, half the time I don't read them. I just call the person.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you want? Did you read my text message? No, I didn't read it because it was way too long. It was way too long. I didn't read it. I'm calling you. Tell me what you need.
To the viewers at home, that's been me to him a few times, but
At least more than once.
I usually have to apologize. Like I just sent you an email. I'm so sorry.
I'm calling you. I'm calling you because this is way too much. Way too much on an email or a phone. Or a text message. Phone calls where you want to go. I get that a lot better. Where are you coming?
So Everett, for everybody watching the video right now, we are going to be dropping the link. Signups are going to be live now. So you can go to amsa.expo.com. Like I said, the link will be in the description of the video. But we're going to be doing signups up until we get a full house, which last year, as I recall, we got a full house almost like 3 weeks before the event. So
yeah,
we got about 7 weeks to the event.
We had a full house. We had a full house real early. We've expanded the venue this year to have a larger turnout for people. It looks like the first 250 are going to have no problem. After that, we might have to make some adjustments. So certainly sign up ASAP. You'll have your name tags that'll be ready for you once you do sign up. So when it makes your registration process a lot easier. But we definitely expect this to be another full house, and there's going to be a lot of stuff here. I mean, if you're a realtor and you want to know how to sell more next year, I mean, again, the statistic that was running around back in July for the first 6 months of this year was that 84% of all realtors nationwide wrote one or fewer transactions, either buy or sell side. And that's a huge number.
Oh,
that's a huge number of realtors. And the statistic that goes with it on the mortgage side is that 170,000 mortgage reps wrote less than 5 transactions in 2025. So there's a lot of people in our industry who are looking for tools and motivation to do better. And it's really not that hard. It just takes the belief in yourself that you want to do it and someone who's going to help you do it. And we've decided we're going to help all that want to be helped. So that's what we're looking at. So please show up October 7th, the Delta Hotel in Woodbridge, New Jersey. Sign up early because this will sell out once again.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into our
hello there, and welcome back to the show. We have a question
a little bit different.
My favorite time is Ask Mike.
The name of the episode too. So
the Ask Mike episode. Let's go.
So as you know, as we've talked about before, you run accountability sessions every week. And sometimes they can get uncomfortable because you're challenging us to be like, what did you do this week? Here's what you can do to improve. What are you going to do next week? How are you going to show up 1% better, as you talked about last time? So I figured let me talk to you today on this video about my pain points, like what I struggle with, and get your advice on that. And then, help me to get better at that, and then check in with me next week. And hopefully I've done better. So I'm putting myself on blast to everybody. Okay. So one of the biggest things that I personally struggle with, and it's even on personal levels, but let's just keep it to business, is rejection. And it's not just being like, oh, okay, we don't want to go with you. It's perceived rejection beforehand. It's like, I'm almost afraid to make this call because they're going to shop me or they're going to do stuff. And there's already part of me that knows that I can get the best pricing. I can do all this. I know how hard I'm going to work on something, but I still struggle with that. And that struggle subconsciously stops me from making the calls that I need to make. What would your suggestion or advice be to somebody or me on how to deal with that?
So to start off with, Joe, we as humans are a very complicated species with that, because you started this with something that is very, very hard for a lot of people to do, which is admit that you have certain amount of faults and that you need help. Okay, most people don't even take that step. We've been conditioned, whether it's by mom and dad, that everybody gets a trophy or whatever it is, that we're perfect. Okay, none of us are. So when we first come out and say, I have pain points, you're asking for help, which, again, statistically, 7 out of 10 people will not do. You know, we have meetings and 3 or 4 people talk, and there's 20 people in the room. 16 people aren't opening their mouths, and they have the same pain points as the other people, maybe a little bit different. So we start out by being very complex. And so you've come the first step, which is to admit there's a problem, right? Isn't that what we hear in most, ways, behavioral changes? When we want to make behavioral changes, we have to start with admitting there's a problem, whatever it is. I used to be overweight for a long time. I lost a lot of weight. I admitted there was a problem with food. Okay, that, you do that kind of stuff. So you admit you have a problem, which is a great success. Right there is the success. You don't even have to take another step, but to take the other step and say, I don't want to deal with rejection. Now, I'm going to talk from a guy's standpoint, because that is probably the biggest fear most guys have in their life. They've been conditioned since they were young. When they went and asked their first, partner out for a date, they went and asked. I remember you turn around and when I asked my wife out for a date, it was like, I hope she says yes. And guys have that in the back of their mind, at least in our generation. The next generation might be different. That's what I remember from my generation. So there's a precondition that you're going to get rejected. I think that exists for a lot of people. So nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to get rejected. It's all about, you touch the stove and it's hot and you don't want to touch it again because it's still hot. So how do you deal with rejection? There's 2 ways that are really, there are really useful techniques to deal with rejection that I've seen, and I use from time to time. One is you develop a persona. Okay, you develop a persona that's, I don't care if I get rejected. It's maybe not who you really are in real life, but you develop this shell, this alter ego, if you will, kind of like the difference between Batman and Bruce Wayne, where, obviously Batman was his macho alter ego. You develop that alter ego so that it deals with rejection, so that Joe doesn't have to deal with rejection. Okay, that's one really well way to do it. And what you're doing is you're going out and you're just, you're taking care of business, and you're answering all questions, and you're going through, you're running through walls, and you're telling people, hey, if you don't agree with me, that's good. That's good, because you shouldn't agree with me on everything. But what you should understand is that I am providing you the best information feasibly possible for you to obtain the best mortgage for you. Okay, that's what my job is to advise you. You get back into those 2 extremes. The other way to deal with it is to challenge yourself. Okay, and only you know your personality. The other way is to challenge yourself. And by challenging yourself, I'm meaning you're actually going to say to yourself, I'm going to go out and I'm going to call, we'll make the numbers easy, 10. I'm going to call 10 realtors today. And my goal is to talk to 10 realtors. Okay, my goal is to talk to 10 realtors and having a meaningful conversation with 1. And you set a challenge position for yourself. That's it. So you go through the day and you say to yourself, okay, today's obviously Wednesday, and you can blurt that out if we're not doing this on a Wednesday, Joe, but we're recording this on a Wednesday. But you kind of sit here and say, okay, today I'm going to make my 10 phone calls and I expect to get a meaningful conversation with one person. The day ends, I go to my book, which those of you know me, I have my book. I always keep my book. This one, I think I got 6 of these. A vendor gave this out. I love them. I keep all my notes in the book, and every day I write in that book. And at the end of the day, I go back to my book and I write down, okay, I made my 10 calls. I had 0 meaningful phone calls today. Okay, so today is an F. This is a pass-fail course. That's what life is. Life is pass-fail. So today I failed. So tomorrow, I'm not going to try and get 2. I'm not going to try and catch up because that's an unrealistic goal. I'm only trying to get that one conversation. I'm trying to win tomorrow. That's all I'm trying to do. And every day I'm going to try and win tomorrow. Eventually what's going to happen is you're going to win a lot more than you lose because you're going to be consistent. And people are going to go, this guy Joe's calling me again. And you know what? He doesn't take no for an answer. He's got a lot of really good ideas. I've inevitably, if you call somebody out of the blue, they are going to check your social media out to see who you are. They're going to use that as a verification because that's really what social media is doing nowadays. It's become a verification that you're actually good at something. So they're going to check your social media out. You have a really good social media, and they're going to go, you know what? I want to talk to him now because I checked him out. Again, there's that other side of the coin that we have to understand, which is these people are being called all day long. People are soliciting them. They're not writing enough business. We know that. Statistically, we know that. So it's not even like they can work with everybody that they'd want to work with. But Joe's consistent. He's constantly in my face. And you have to look at it and say, one day doesn't tell the story. 1 week doesn't tell the story. You have to take a report card for 30 days. Take a report card on yourself for 30 days. I think what you're going to wind up finding out is that 60% of those days you're going to actually have won the day. And that's a hell of a good statistic.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get to go, I'm not really being rejected as much as I think. As a matter of fact, some days you're going to have multiple meaningful conversations. And when you get to that point, that's when your business is taken off. That's when you know that your business is going to expand exponentially because you've had multiple meaningful conversations.
So that is a perfect segue, though, into question number 2. And this might be a mindset thing, too. How do you follow up without feeling or becoming annoying? Like, what's the right amount of touch points? And I know we've talked about this just from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah. And again, this is the hardest thing about business and life is that there's no roadmap. I have 3 children and all 3 of them were different growing up. Some of them had similarities with others, but there was no consistency. If I treated everyone like I did my daughter, then in all honesty, the other 2, I don't know how their lives would have changed because they were different. So following up, there can't be a universal method to following up. That's number 1. There are tools you need to use to follow up, but then you have to make a decision at what point you're just annoying or what point you're never going to work out with that person. So when it comes to marketing and sales, I will follow up. Again, I will do if you do this correctly, there's, in the mortgage business, I'm going to say something that people are going to like hide under tables when I say this. There's 6 days a week that you should be making phone calls. Okay. This is not a 9 to 5 job. And in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be less of a 9 to 5 job than it ever was. So if you're a mortgage originator and you're working 9 to 5 right now, you are destined to fail. Even if you're exceptional right now, you're destined to fail, because the world is changing around you. So the first thing I would do is I would understand that I'm making 10 phone calls a day, 6 days a week. Okay. These are actual phone calls for that meaningful conversation. Now, of course, there's going to be drop messages, where law allows, you can send a text, email, some kind of other marketing strategies to get your name out there. Those are other things that you need to do. I'm just talking about phone calls. So you're going to sit here and do this 6 days a week. I guarantee you that Saturday phone call, people are going to be like, wow, who are you calling me on a Saturday? You're a mortgage rep? Because mortgage reps have decided to make this a Monday through Friday type of job. So you'll get pickup there. I would make the same 60 phone calls every week for 4 weeks. Different times a day, different days of the week. I would adjust people around. After a month, I would go to my report card. I'd look at my report card and go, okay, yeah, these 10 realtors, these 20 realtors, no meaningful conversation, no conversation at all. They sent me to voicemail every single time. They told me to stop calling them, what have you. They get moved off my list, and I bring in 20 more, so that I still have 60 people I'm calling, and having meaningful conversation. A meaningful conversation does not necessarily mean what my mortgage product of the day is, or, sometimes they're not even mortgage. Some of my best clients, we don't talk about mortgage at all. We talk about the world. We talk about what's going on. How's your family? That's where those conversations graduate to. So I would tell you that if you're doing this blindly, Mortgage 101, you're doing this blindly, you're doing it for a month before it's case. Of course, unless somebody says, I can't stand you, never call me again, in which case don't call them again. I mean, that's, but most people are polite to a degree where they're not doing that. And this is assuming that you're getting 10 people on the phone. Again, that's why you're making 10 calls, because the chances really are 4 of them, maybe less, are actually going to pick up the phone. So most of them aren't going to pick up the phone. But that's where you have your time to leave a message, and make your message you leave important, enough so that people know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's good. So I guess that also good leading into our last question, and I'll give a little color for this one. So it's going to be, what do you do when business gets slow? But there's a few different things that go into this. It's not only when business gets slow, because obviously we've been talking about, green time, making phone calls, all this goes into that. But the overall theme being rejection today. What happens when not only business gets slow, but I think a lot of us loan officers, myself included, because when business is slow, you're holding on to that one deal. So what do you do when you get like this week? I lost a gigantic deal. No fault of our own. The contract just fell through. At the last minute, they want to back out of it, and they had the right deal. But, in our heads, we're just like, oh, well, this is going to take me to A, B, or C. And it just throws you down. And then you're just like, okay, well, just keep on moving forward. But getting out of that mindset is hard. So, how do you consistently follow these guidelines to make sure that your pipeline is always healthy and always has something going into it?
Okay. So if you're an experienced individual who have seen a downturn in the marketplace, and there's less sales this year. There's all sorts of stats. We can read it right now. There's less sales this year than there are in other years. What you can do right now is you can make sure you call all of your past clients. Not just shoot them a text message, not just shoot them an email. You can do that too. But call your past clients and set up a conference in regard to what their financial goals with real estate is. And you might find that these people are sitting on a lot of equity, but they're also sitting on a lot of credit card debt. So you can make their lives a little bit easier by helping them out with a HELOC. That's one way you could do it. One way you can generate revenue for yourself and help people at the same time, where they're not thinking about it. Or I've heard HELOC's a bad thing. Well, maybe you give them a HELOC loan instead. Something along the lines of taking that extra step. The problem we run into when business is slow is that we fail to realize that we're the ones who allowed business to be slow. You have a gold mine in your past client database. There's an absolute gold mine in that database. And if you're not soliciting it, somebody else is. So number one, you've got to talk to your past clients. That's number one. Number two, you have to do everything all over again that made you successful in the first place. So you have to step out of the comfort zone that you created. Look, who doesn't like sitting back on their living room couch and just counting $100 bills, right? If money was just coming to you and you just had $100 bills that you could count on your living room couch and you didn't have to do anything all day, who wouldn't want to do that? Okay? The people who don't want to do that are the people who are highly successful in today's market because they feel they have to do something. Okay? They don't want to sit back and just count $100 bills. Okay? Probably do both. They probably work their behind off and at the same time are counting $100 bills. But you have to go back to basics. That's one reason why, and I'm going to kind of full circle, that's one reason why AMSA 26 is the format it is. Because it's a back to basics calling card is what it is. We have to forget the last 5 years and understand that we all need to go back to basics. What made us successful in the first place? Otherwise, what's happening is the spread between the highly successful and the moderately successful in this industry is going to widen like the Grand Canyon. It's going to be huge. So we have to be in a position where we have to go back to basics. That's where we currently are. So from your standpoint, the easiest thing to do when business gets slow is actually look at your past clients, look at your past business contacts, make phone calls. These are all basics 101. Set an appointment up. Hey, can we get together and talk? I've got this great product. I think I can help you market to buyers. We have to help realtors sell houses. Yes, that's not our job to sell houses. I get that. But if we make the job easier for realtors to sell houses, that's one more closing we all have. When we have more time on our hands, we can do more. That's what makes people afraid of the AI revolution going on. Because the people who are moderately successful or very limitedly successful are thinking that AI is going to kick them out of the business. AI all by itself is not going to kick them out of the business, but the highly successful realtor or mortgage rep is going to use AI to exponentially increase their market share. And that will kick them out of the business. Yeah. And that's what they have to worry about. So basics matter. And as many people we have this year as successful, we're We're blessed at AMS Mortgage. Through July, I think we wrote something like 30 loans less than last year. Last year we wrote 760. This year we're at 730 through July. So no, we didn't increase our volume, but we did it. We did that with 10 less mortgage reps than we had the year before. And we did it with a staff that's less than 80 loan officers, which is a pretty good number. Mind you, our revenue is higher and our average loan amount is higher. So people have made adjustments. Okay, they've made adjustments. They went back to basics. They looked at demographics. They look at socioeconomic factors, looked at stuff and realized that in today's market, the first-time home buyer or the lower income individual is not necessarily buying at the same rate that the wealthy individual is buying at, and they adjusted their market plan. That's why there's no roadmap. You have to look at the data that's in front of you and you have to adjust what you do for a living. And not everybody has the wherewithal to do that. So the first thing you have to do is make your adjustments, analyze your book of business, look at your past book of business, call everybody that you've ever done a loan with as far as consumers go, and then call all the realtors that you did a loan with. And don't forget the listing realtor, the person on the other side of the transaction. If you've done a really good job, this is a big fail for the mortgage industry. If you're a loan officer and you've done a really good job and you know you've done a really good job, why aren't you calling the listing agent, the seller's attorney, and everyone else around and letting them know you did a really good job? For some reason, we don't do that. But in the next breath, we go, I'm getting rejected. I'm slow. Well, yeah, because you're not doing the basics. Do the basics. We understand what the basics are. And the basics aren't whatever comes, whatever lead I get, I'm going to wind up doing business that way. I've talked to many new recruits. Joe, you know this. We've gone through this stuff, but talked to a new recruit this week, had an excellent conversation with this person. A woman out of the Pittsburgh area. She's looking to come work at another company, and she's smart. She knows her stuff. She has zero confidence in getting referral business. She can't get leads. She can't do business. Yet in the last 2 years, she only closed 11 loans. So the leads aren't getting her business either. And she has no way of parlaying the lead business into referral business, which is what leads were initially designed to do. So she's like, well, I can't do business if I don't have leads. And I'm like, you can. You don't know how to. So if you know how to get referral business, and the people who are getting referral business, I have to tell you, those particular individuals are not finding 2026 to be slow. Those individuals, and I see it in our market shares. When I do our market share reports, I see those people who are still earning hundreds of thousands of dollars on referral business versus lead generation business. So those stats are there.
Yeah, and I think there is a lot of proof of that, even as I personally go and spend some time with some of our biggest producers, and I'm watching what their actions are and what they're doing. And I think one of the biggest things, while they do utilize AI in certain areas, is they're always picking this up. They're always making calls before they're sending texts, before they're doing this, because I think it's a lot harder to ignore. It's a lot easier to ignore an email or a text. A lot harder if somebody calls you and they're just like, okay, this is real now.
The people who are, I mean, kind of go like this, and we've talked about this numerous times during this episode, but think about going to see a speaker, a dynamic speaker. I had the luxury of being able to go see Josh Altman talk for $1 Million Listing LA at an expo in Weehawken, New Jersey. Great speaker. He really did a nice job. I mean, I watched him on TV. His personality on TV was a little, would be a realtor that I don't know that I would do a lot of mortgages with, but when I heard him talk, I went, solid. Imagine if he did that talk. And I talked to him on the side for a minute. But imagine if he did that talk by text message. Would the same thought process come out? Would the same personality come out? Would the same motivational value come out? No, it wouldn't. So the people who are highly successful in this market are not afraid of this thing, of picking it up and actually talking to another person on the other line. And if that person doesn't agree with them, that's okay. You don't have to agree. But you know what? Hiding behind text message is something that's going to lose you favorability points with every person in the transaction you work with. Tell the story a couple of weeks ago. We have a very tough transaction going on right now, and we're going to get it to work. As a matter of fact, it's already approved. I think there's one condition left now. And the buyer's attorney called me up, and she started asking a lot of pointed questions, and I gave her all of the factual answers back. And we wound up talking for about an hour and 10 minutes. And it moved off that client to the industry, to this, to that, to the next thing. It moved off that. Then in turn, it moved to a whole nother aspect, which was she called me up a little while later. She's like, oh, I looked at your social media profile, validation. I mean, we get right to validation right there. I looked at your profile. I understand. And she started talking about, I had heart surgery. So she started asking me about that. And we had another half-hour conversation on a personal level. This is somebody that I talked to. It's the first day I ever talked to this person. And I just made a business contact who is a real estate attorney in New York and New Jersey. She's a bank attorney. She's a real estate attorney. And I'm like, you know what? Are there worse people to be friends with? Why not talk to her? Why not let her know? Yes, the file's moving itself well along. It's going to close. And I know when she's going to talk to people, and she says, when you have a tough transaction, you better call Mike because he's going to tell you whether or not it can work or not. And I know that's going to be the result. But now I have somebody in my referral database that I can talk to. So you don't know, when that phone rings, you don't know if that person on the other end is going to be a future reference for you or not. Yet 9 out of 10 times you send it to voicemail. And that should be the biggest lesson anybody learns from this episode is pick up the phone. There actually could be somebody on the other end.
Well, that's great. I learned a lot, and I think it's a lot of stuff that people are listening. That if you start putting this into practice, like your business is going to increase, and you are going to have positive moves forward. I think it's like we were talking about, like losing weight or getting stronger. Any of that, it's a process. You have to start somewhere and keep on doing the work every single day. I think when it comes back down to the rejection is when you have that one bad day, when you eat that pizza, when that one realtor doesn't want to talk to you, you take it personally and then just give up on the whole thing. So consistency.
And it's also, Joe, the realization, you started this meeting with the realization that, hey, I've got a problem. It starts with that. I got an email. We did an accountability class yesterday, and I talked about how you can actually use articles to help promote your business. News articles that came out. And someone reached out to me from the meeting and said, hey, can you send me a copy of all those articles? And yeah, I could. But in the theme of accountability, why not you get some articles, you send them to me and tell me how you would market those articles. Like, it's easy for all of us to be giving the keys and being told, go drive the car, it's your car. It's a lot harder to go get your own car. So, but the people who go get their own car, you know, they feel really good and proud that they've been able to accomplish something. So do it. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to fail. That is the worst thing that's going to happen. So what? Just do it. I mean, Nike made millions of dollars off of just do it, right?
And for everybody at home, just remember AMSA 26, AMSAexpo.com. Signups are live right now. We are going to be announcing speakers. We're going to be announcing topics and other things that we're going to be getting into as the weeks go on. So when you sign up, you'll also be on our email list, so you'll know what's going on. And if any changes or new things happen, you'll be the first to know. Mike, thank you so much for today. And to everybody watching at home, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, follow us everywhere. The links are going to be where you're watching it.
Everywhere. Everywhere where you are.
All right. Well, thanks to everybody, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Joe.